Hey everyone, and welcome into episode 1 of the Brushback, where we talk all things baseball. Jordan Lank here alongside Ryan Ladika. We're going to start the series off by taking a look around the Cactus League in the desert of Arizona. And we're going to start off with both teams at Salt River Fields at Talking Stick out in Scottsdale, the Rockies and the Diamondbacks. And Ryan, we're going to start with the Rockies. It's come to my understanding that, like the Diamondbacks, there's a bit of a competition behind the dish for the Rocks this year.
Yes, absolutely, there is, Jordan. Nick Hundley was a primary catcher for the Rockies in the 2016 season. He has since departed for San Francisco. He signed a contract with them this offseason. So it looks like the Rockies will have to rely on youth more than anything, as their projected primary catcher, Tony Walters, has just been claimed off waivers before the 2016 season. He had never played a game in the major leagues before. He had a pretty good year in 2016. He hit 259. He had a 359 on base percentage, and he slugged 723. So not eye-popping numbers, but look for that to improve with experience. But where Tony Walters really shines is defensively behind the plate. He had a 988 fielding percentage as a backup catcher last year, but his claim to fame is really pitch framing. According to Baseball Prospectus, Walters finished 5th in the majors in called strikes above average at 0.017, meaning that out of every 100 pitches, his ability to handle the borderline pitches amounted to just under 2 extra strikes. So look for that to keep up with Tony Walters as he transitions into his first full year of being the starting catcher for the Colorado Rockies. And also, Tom Murphy is another exciting Rockies prospect to watch. Most likely he will be the backup to Tony Walters. Look for him to make the big league club out of spring training. He has had abbreviated stints in the major leagues in the past 2 years. He played in 11 games. In 2015, he had 257, hit 3 home runs and 9 RBIs. And last year in 2016, he had a little bit longer, 21 games. He had 273, 5 home runs, and 13 RBIs. So the offense has really come quick for Tom Murphy. So look for that to continue as he transitions into a backup catcher role in the major leagues.
And you mentioned, Ryan, Tony Walters, his pitch framing ability. That is really, really becoming something paramount in Major League Baseball, and not just professional baseball, but also college baseball and high school baseball. Myself, I played high school baseball and I caught. So I definitely understand the importance of needing to frame pitches and to bring those borderline pitches in for strikes, because it can really save your pitchers, like it can save them grief. That ball could end up being a walk. Those pile up in games. And much like what the Rockies are doing, the Diamondbacks are also really focusing on pitch framing this spring training, as they signed Jeff Mathis in the month of December. He's heading into his age 34 season. The only reason the Diamondbacks really signed Mathis is because he's an elite pitch framer. He's a 197 career hitter. He's never been an offensive threat. In the last 2 years, he's struck out over a quarter of the time. Over the last 2 years, he's played 73 games, struck out exactly 25.5% of that time. So Mathis, the reason that the new regime, Mike Hazen and manager Torey Lovullo, brought him in is to really help the younger pitching staff and to help the struggling Patrick Corbin, the struggling Shelby Miller. You get into Taijuan Walker, who showed glimpses of promise last year in Seattle, who, of course, came over in the trade with Seattle that sent Jean Segura to the Mariners. But the signing of Mathis really shows that the Diamondbacks are looking at pitching, and that they really need to upgrade their pitching, not only in the starting rotation, but also in the bullpen. And I think that's a great step for this team, for a team that only had 69 wins last year, and really, really underperformed. Of course, they had Zach Greinke and Shelby Miller, and Corbin was supposed to be great last year too, not to mention Ruby De La Rosa and Robbie Ray, but everybody underperformed. The offense got hurt, and what's going on here with Mathis is, I think, a really, really nice step in the right direction. I didn't like it at first, but I really think it's a step in the right direction. Ryan, we're going to head back over to you. Speaking of starting pitching, the Rockies have a couple of top pitching prospects in spring training so far this year. Jeff Hoffman is one of those, correct?
Yes, yeah, Jeff Hoffman, as well as Kyle Freeland, the Rockies' 8th overall pick in the first round of the 2014 draft is Kyle Freeland. He will be competing with Jeff Hoffman, the centerpiece of the blockbuster Troy Tulowitzki trade to Toronto at the trade deadline in 2015. They will be competing for the 5th roster spot for the Rockies after Jorge De La Rosa, the all-time Rockies leader in wins and strikeouts, signed with Arizona just a couple weeks ago, actually, in his year of free agency. So Jeff Hoffman was the centerpiece of the Tulo trade. The Rockies traded Tulo for Jose Reyes and pitching prospects. Of those was Jeff Hoffman. He saw time in the majors last year. It wasn't very good as he went 0 for 4 with a 4.88 ERA in 8 games. He started 6 of those. So look for Jeff Hoffman to really be competing for that 5th roster spot. Look for him to make the big league club out of spring training and rebound from that rough patch that he had in the major leagues last year. But really, the big storyline of the Rockies offseason was the 5-year, $70 million contract that they handed out to Ian Desmond to play first base to replace Mark Reynolds. Mark Reynolds was the primary first baseman for the Rockies in the 2016 season. He was re-signed also to the Rockies, but on a minor league contract, so he will be playing for his job in the major leagues this spring training. But Ian Desmond looks like he will be the primary first baseman for the Rockies this year. It's a bit of an interesting signing since he spent most of his career in Washington playing for the Nationals as a shortstop. He made a pretty good couple years out of that. Started to fall off a little bit there. But last year he gambled on himself. He turned down a large contract extension from the Nationals, took a 1-year deal with the Texas Rangers as a center fielder, ended up making the All-Star team as a center fielder. So that's what makes this signing so interesting, as he has never played a meaningful inning at first base in his major league career. Last year in Texas, he did hit .285 with 22 home runs and 86 RBIs, 107 runs scored, and he did end up stealing 21 stolen. He did have 21 stolen bases as well. So that'll be a big asset for the Rockies as he transitions into a hitter's park. We'll see how much those offensive numbers get boosted. Going from a big blockbuster signing to maybe a blockbuster trade that the D-backs made, trading away their primary second baseman this offseason, Jordan.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier, Jean Segura. Mike Hazen's first move as the new general manager of the Diamondbacks, he sent Jean Segura to the Seattle Mariners in exchange for young shortstop Ketel Marte and a consensus top 10 prospect at one point, young pitcher Taijuan Walker, who really started budding last season. At first, I really didn't like the trade. Obviously, Segura was a huge asset to the Diamondbacks last year. Hit .319, led the NL in hits with 203, stole 33 bases, and he was 13th in MVP voting. Like I couldn't wrap my mind around why the Diamondbacks wanted to get rid of a guy like Jean Segura, but they did it, and I'm understanding, going back to the whole pitching metrics and the catching metrics, that the Diamondbacks are really looking at youthful pitching and really wrapping that part of the game together.
Well, that's all the time we have for today, everyone. For Jordan Lank, I'm Ryan Ladika, and you've been listening to the first episode of the Brushback. Thanks for joining us.